Okay, today we're making a popular side dish to go with barbecues, and since I've got a couple of briskets out there in the smoker, what better side dish to make than the classic macaroni cheese. Now, it's a dish in its own right. You can have it as a meal on its own, or it's a perfect accompaniment to a nice piece of meat. So for this one, I'm going to add a little bit of a twist, and I'm going to put some homemade smoked bacon into it and mix that up with it. It's going to give it a bit of extra kick. Now, this is some of my own smoked, home cured bacon, which I'm sure I'll do a video about at some point in the near future for you all. Now, we're just going to fry this off a little bit, not so much crisp it up, but cook it through. I'm going to use the same pan that I'm going to make the sauce in, so all that flavour that comes out of the bacon is going to get imparted into the sauce as well. So we're going to get that bacon going in there. Just keep stirring it so it doesn't stick. And in the meantime, I've got a large pan of boiling water, boiling salted water, to which I'm going to add the full bag of macaroni. If there's too much, I don't need to use it all, but I'd rather have too much than too little. So we want to be cooking this for a few minutes less than what it says on the packet. You don't want to cook it until it's cooked. You want to cook it until it's still quite firm, and you wouldn't eat it like that. So we're going to give this about 8 or 9 minutes. Alexa, set timer 8 minutes. So we're going to get this bacon fried off. Just turn the heat up a little bit on that. And you can smell the smokiness coming out of that. That's just going to add to this dish. It's going to make it perfect. So I'm actually making this ahead of time, or at least getting all of this prep work done, so that later on, when I've got guests around, I can just put it into the oven and heat it through, crisp up the top, etc. So I'm not messing around. So you can add all sorts to this to jazz it up a little bit. Broccoli is quite nice, bit of par-cooked broccoli mixed in with the macaroni and cheese. Jalapenos, anything you like really, chorizo, things like that, just to give it a bit of a flavour. I'm going to keep it fairly simple with the smoked bacon. Not too much, just a couple of rashers diced up into really small pieces. And I will try to put the recipe and ingredients in the description below. Okay, so once the bacon is cooked through, as I said, we're not crisping it up, we're just cooking it through, but undoubtedly, as there are going to be some really small pieces, you are going to get those nice little crunchy bits as well. Now I'm going to remove this from the pan and put that into a bowl, save for later. So using the same pan that I've just crisped the bacon off in, keep all those nice flavours, I'm going to add a nice chunk of butter. I've got some little leftover bits here from packets, so I'll chuck them in as well, get them used up. Plenty of butter. I've not needed to turn the heat back on, the pan's got enough residual heat in it to melt this butter down, which is all I'm trying to do at this moment. I don't want to burn the butter. Using the melted butter, what we're actually going to do is deglaze the pan as well. So all those lovely bits of bacon that have stuck to the bottom, they're all going to come off with the butter and just mix in and basically give that butter a big kick of extra flavour. If you keep stirring it and just keep scraping the bottom with your spoon, you're going to make sure you get all that bacony goodness mixed in with your melted butter. Alexa, stop. So, the pasta's been in for about 8 or 9 minutes now. You don't need to worry about it being cooked fully. That's not going to happen because it's going to continue cooking when you put it into the oven as the macaroni dish. What you don't want is really mushy, stodgy pasta, to be fair. So We will remove that from the heat. I will just grab a little bit of it and just see what, grab a little bit, see what the texture is like. Yeah, you wouldn't serve it to eat like that, and that's what you're looking for. It's soft enough not to be crunchy, but at the same time, not good enough to eat as it is. So we're going to drain the pasta. And put it to one side. Now some of the bits clumped up together while I was cooking it because I didn't stir it as enough as I should have done. So a good shake around in the pan. With the lid on obviously, otherwise that could get messy. Good shake around in the pan. It's going to separate most of those bits up. So we can leave that to one side while we get back onto the sauce. So now the butter has fully melted. It's taken on a bit of a nice browny, caramelised colour from all that lovely bacon in there. What we're going to do is we're going to add flour. So it's about the same amount of flour to butter really. So yeah, thereabouts. We're not too fussed. Okay, give that a good stir up. Increase the heat a little bit. What we're going to do now is just give it a good stir, mix it all together. Get all the little lumps out if you can, and we're just going to cook that flour off for another minute or two. Now this is the basis for pretty much any sauce. What we've made here is called a roux. It's basically butter and flour. Mix it up all together, and then you add milk or cream, or you can add stock or whatever. It's the basis of almost any sauce. So once that's been cooking away for a minute or two, you'll see it starting to bubble up and foam. We're going to start adding the milk. Now I've got about half a pint, well no, it's 500 ml of milk here, whole milk, because at the end of the day this is not a diet dish. And then you're going to add it slowly, so a little bit, and keep stirring it in. And what you're going to find, weirdly, is it's going to get really thick. You know, you're adding more liquid to it, the last thing you expect is for it to get thicker and thicker and thicker. As you can see, it's looking really wrong at the moment, but you keep adding that milk, keep adding it slowly, bit at a time, keep stirring. And then what you'll find, all of a sudden, it's going to go from a really thick, stodgy mixture If you add too much milk at once, you run the risk of it being very lumpy. So a little bit at a time, keep it stirring. So it's starting to loosen up now. What we're going to find is that it will all of a sudden become very liquid again. See, that's now quite smooth. It's got a nice thick creamy consistency. Now you can add the milk a little bit faster. It shouldn't stick as much now, shouldn't clump together as much. But it is going to turn now into a liquid. And then just pour the whole lot in. And to give this a bit of extra richness, I'm going to add a small pot of double cream into this. As I said, we are certainly not dieting with this dish. And mix all that together. few twists of black pepper, big pinch of sea salt, and a sprinkling of paprika. Looks like I'm out of paprika. Not to worry, that'll do. It's only a hint of that flavour that you're wanting. Don't forget it's already got the smoked bacon in there, so you don't need to add too many other smoky flavours. Now we're just going to let that warm through, and when it's nice and warm we'll start adding the cheese. Okay, so this is heated through nicely now. What we're going to do now is start to add the cheese. So as you can see, I've pre-grated rather a lot of cheese, but it's never going to go to waste. I'll just put it in an airtight tub and put it back in the fridge. Pre-grated a load of mature cheddar and a block of Gruyere as well. Just going to add a bit of extra creaminess and nuttiness to it. So the recipe that we're kind of following to a degree does talk about X number of cups of cheese, but at the end of the day, I find that roughly a nice handful like that is 1 cup, so we'll stick 2 of those in. Turn this heat right down to the lowest setting. I'm just going to stir that through. Then I'm going to add this Gruyere, because if I'm going to have any leftover cheese of anything, I want it to be the mature cheddar, the standard stuff really. So we'll put the special cheese in, make sure that gets all mixed through. And what we're going to look for now is a really nice, thick, gooey, creamy consistency, a really thick cheese sauce. So we'll melt that through. We'll probably end up sticking another couple of handfuls of this cheese in as well. It's a good idea not to use the pre-grated stuff you can buy in the bags. That stuff's, you know, it's good. You know, it's grated cheese at the end of the day, but it's coated with like a cornstarch sort of thing, which it'll make it clumpier and it'll stop it cooking as easily. So if you can, use your own freshly grated cheese. Now to cheat, I use a food processor because that would take far too long to grate that much cheese using a box grater. So that first batch is melted nicely now, so I'm going to stick another large handful in there. Yeah, that melted down. And we're just going to keep stirring that. Get all that cheese nicely melted in. So at this point, before I add any more cheese, I'm just going to have a little taste. I'm going to get a clean teaspoon. And I'm testing to see if I think it needs anything else. And that's not too bad. I'll add another handful of cheese, another cup of cheese. And the dog likes to clear up the little bits of cheese that drop as I'm doing this. That's the one of the good things about having a dog. You don't get much food mess on the floor. So all of that cheese is now melted in. We've got a nice, silky smooth, not too lumpy sauce. It's going to be a little bit lumpy, but it's only bits of cheese. They'll melt out soon when we cook it. So another clean spoon, just a last little taste. See what that's like. Spot on. Really cheesy, so perfect. What I'm going to do now is add the bacon bits in that I pre-cooked earlier. And a good stir through and take it off the heat. So this is the sort of consistency you're looking for. After a few handfuls of cheese, about 600 ml of milk and cream. Nice and gooey and liquidy. And that's ready to mix in with the pasta. So I've made a little bit of a schoolboy error. The pan that I used to cook the pasta in, a little bit too small, so I've had to transfer it to a bigger pan. So that now I can mix all this lovely creamy sauce. And I'm going to try and get as much of that as possible into there. I'm going to give this a good stir together. Now don't worry if your macaroni's sort of stuck to itself and all stuck together as it's sort of dried out. Once you start adding this cheese sauce through, they'll all separate and make their own way in life, so to say. We're going to give that a nice good stir together. Mix it all up. So you've got a really gooey, cheesy, pasta-y amazingness. So all that's left to do now is transfer this into a baking dish of a suitable dimension. Don't worry if your baking dish is too small for the amount of pasta you've done, because you can always put it into another smaller one and that can be frozen like that, obviously with a lid on it, and then reheated at a later date once defrosted. So I'm going to get all that pasta out of there, as much pasta and cheese as I can. I'm going to make sure I get all those bits of bacon out of the pan. Don't want to leave any of those tasty little morsels behind. So there we have it. Nice big tray of macaroni cheese, almost ready to go into the oven. Last thing to do, sprinkle a liberal amount of the remaining grated cheese over the top. And that's it. So when I'm ready to bake it, I'm going to put it into the oven at about 180 degrees centigrade for a fan-assisted oven, about 200 degrees for a non-fan oven. 20 to 30 minutes until it's all nice and bubbly and crusty on top and gone a bit brown. Perfect. We'll see that in a bit. Okay, so earlier on I said that we were going to pre-make this so that all I had to do was bung it in the oven when the guests arrive. Well, they've arrived. I've now got a live action audience watching me and embarrassing me. So I'm going to stick this into the oven, about 180 on a fan, and we're going to leave that there for about 20-25 minutes. Until the top's all browned off and crispy and bubbly and extra cheesy. Okay, so it's bubbling away nicely now. It's going all brown on the top. All that cheesy goodness is looking mighty fine. Be ready to take out the oven shortly. Okay, so it's time to take out the mac and cheese. Looking pretty perfect. Just hoping it's going to taste as good as it looks, which I'm sure it will. You can't go wrong with cheese, basically. So there we are. So we've got a nice brown, crispy, bubbling, cheesy surface on the top. And yeah, that's just going to be molten cheesy goodness all throughout. So we're serving this today with some smoked brisket. Not sure if it's out of shot there or not, but don't worry, it'll soon be in there. And we've got some potato wedges and some nice homemade coleslaw. So I'm just going to take a chunk of this out of here. Look at that. That's good mac and cheese. Try and leave the oil in the bottom, so that's why I'm using a slotted spoon. Serve some portions of that. And we're going to serve some of this lovely brisket with each of these as well. The boy's a bit strange, he don't like chips, so he just gets macaroni and brisket.